Hello everyone and welcome back to the Synergy Sanctum. My name is Justin. Thank you so much for stopping by. Here at the Synergy Sanctum, we specialize in all things related to Magic the Gathering, with a specific focus on deck building. So I aim to show you very quick deck techs that'll show you all of the cards in the deck and how they work together to ultimately achieve the goals of that deck. If you're not already, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate that. And we also have a sister channel now, so head on over to Commander Coliseum and check out their content as well. And for today's deck tech, we have another avatar spoiler for you with Fire Lord Zuko. An EDH play from Exile focused deck in red, white, and black today. Fire Lord Zuko has pretty decent abilities built in on it. He can firebend for X, where X is his power, but he's also here because anytime you cast a spell from Exile, and whenever a permanent you control enters from Exile, you're getting to put counters on every creature you control, so his abilities directly relate. He's going to load up the mana for you once he's bigger, but anytime you're casting a spell from Exile, he's getting bigger, so really powerful deck. We're going to get into how it's going to win today. Current CCG market value is pretty steep at $225 to $251. And then our land counts are 34, with 17 of them being basics between the three colors, and then 17 of them being non-basics as well. So we got a couple of win cons in the deck, and I think everybody that has seen the firebending ability is going in on both of these. super powerful. So starting with Fire Nation Turret. Ugh. This card is just doing work for mono red. So at the beginning of combat on your turn, one target creature is getting +2 and getting firebending 2 for the turn, which is fine. But it's really here for the second abilities, which are for a red, you could put a charge counter on it. And then you get to remove 50 of those to do 50 damage to anything. So just so broken here. You can just Death Star somebody with this Fire Nation Turret. And with the firebending mechanic, you're going to be getting so much mana during combat that you can easily sink into this to win the game. Just so broken here. I need to get like 10 of these. And then Hellkite Charger, 6 mana dragon, flying and haste, which is okay, but when it attacks, you get to pay 7 mana, and if you do, you get to untap all other attacking creatures, and then you get an additional combat. So really good here. Hellkite Charger, if you can get 7 mana off of the firebending, you're basically going to get infinite combats, and because he's in the air, you just have to be able to attack with one of the firebending people, and then, you know, you get the 7 mana, and he can just keep hitting stuff in the air if they have blockers on the ground. So another solid win con here. And then here, there's a ton of cards that you can play from Exile. We're going to go into most of them in these 3 colors, the good ones anyway, in my opinion. So Aranya, Heart of the Spider from the Spider-Man set, when you attack, you get to put a counter on a creature, so that's probably going to be Zuko. And then when a creature with a counter on it deals combat damage, you get to exile the top card of your library, and you can play it this turn. And then if you play that with Fire Lord Zuko's ability, everyone's getting counters. Ren's Resolve is letting you exile 2, and you have until your next turn to play them. Commune with Lava is a good mana sink for all of that firebending mana, and you get to exile the top X cards until your next turn you can play them, so really solid there. Count on Luck is kind of like mono red's Phyrexian Arena. You're going to get to exile a card at your upkeep, and you can play it for the turns, getting you 2 draws sort of for the turn. Cunning Rhetoric, really interesting card for a black deck, but it's an enchantment, and then if someone attacks you, you get to take the top card of their library, and you can play it for as long as it remains exiled. Really solid. Atali Primal Storms, been waiting for a deck like this. When he attacks, you're going to exile the top card of everyone's library and play them for the turn, which is then going to make Zuko and everyone bigger, and you're doing this at the Declare Attacker step. So before damage, everyone's going to get at least, you know, +4 bigger. Blazing Crescendos, letting you exile the top card until your next turn you can play it. Quarry Mountain Monastery on a land. You can sink 4 into this to exile the top card and play it until the end of your next turn. Duelist Flame says that until end of turn, target blocked creature you control gets +X in trample. And if they happen to deal combat damage, you look at that many cards from the top of your library and you can exile one and then play it for free. Commander Liara Portier says that when you attack, spells from exile cost X less, where X is the number of players being attacked, and you get to also exile spells. Super powerful card for this deck. And then we're also running Dream Devourer. Dream Devourer is turning all of your non-land cards into Foretell ones, and then Foretell you're basically playing from exile later. So really, really powerful for this deck, and cheap too at 2 mana to do this. And then additional cards that play from exile. So Dragonhawk Fate's Tempest says that when it enters or attacks, you get to exile the top X, where X is the number of creatures you control with 4 or greater. And then you can play those until your next end step. Solstice Revelations letting you exile 1, and then you can play it. It has flashback as well. Wild Wastelands, just like you don't get to draw anymore at your upkeep, you're just going to exile 2 cards and play those. So, you know, not that bad for this type of deck. Seize Opportunities letting you exile 2, and you can play him till the end of your next turn. Ryan Sinclair is letting you exile every time he attacks, and then you can cast it without playing its mana cost if it's a spell that's less than his power. So again, getting the value off of all of those +1 counters that are happening. Reckless Impulse is letting you exile 2, and you can play him until the end of your next turn. Prosper Tombbound is letting you exile 1 at end step, and then anytime you play one, you get treasure. So just tons of value for this type of deck. Party Thrasher is giving them all Convoke, so you can tap your creatures to play them. And then at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you get to discard a card to exile 2 and play those. Plarg and Nasari is letting you do it at upkeep. Everybody's exiling 1, and opponent's choosing one of them, but then you can cast up to 2 of the other ones without paying their mana cost. Outrageous Robbery, target opponent's going to exile the top X cards, whatever you pay into X, and then you can play those. And then a few more exile spells. This is our last slide of exile spells. So Light Up the Stage, it's letting you exile 2. Hoarding Broodlord, when it enters, you get to search for a card and exile it, and then you can play it. But he's also giving all of your spells Convoke from exile, so really good. He has Convoke as well. Man, that card's broken. Lelia, the Blade Reforge, when she attacks, you get to exile the top card and you can play it. And then when you exile cards from your library or graveyard, she gets bigger. Headliner Scarlet, when she enters, creatures target player controls can't block. Really good. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you can exile a card and play it. Kami of Celebration, when one of those +1 counter creatures attack, you get to exile and play cards, and then when you cast them, you get to make a creature bigger with counters. Glimpse the Impossibles, and you exile 3, and if you don't play them, they turn into Eldrazi spawns. Ignite the Futures, and you exile 3 until the end of your next turn, you can play those. And then if this spell was cast from a graveyard, so if you cast it for its flashback card cost, you get to play those cards without paying their mana cost. Kate Sith Fortune Teller, beginning of combat on your turn, you get to scry and then exile a card, and you can play it. And then when you exile a card this way, target creature gets +X, where X is that card's mana value, so really good. And this is before declare attack step, so Fire Lord Zuko is going to get the boost and get more firebending mana. Hurl Through Hell's removal, and then you can play the exile card. Firelord Ozai has a mana sink of 6 into it to exile your opponent's cards from their library, and then you can play 1 without paying its mana costs. And then other good stuff, so Mana Sync with Zuko Exiled Prince, you can sink 3 into him to exile cards and play them. Swords to Plowshares as removal. Wild Magic Sorcerer is giving your spells from exiled Cascade, the first one. Ugh, so broken. Sun Warriors is a firebending X, where X is the number of creatures you control, so just more mana there, but you can sink to make allies. Vindictive Warden says that you can sink 3 into it to have him deal a damage to each opponent. Stroke of Midnight is removal, destroy target permanent. Vidalcan Orrery is letting you do everything at instant speed with flash. Phyrexian Arena is letting you draw at upkeep. Ultimate Magic Holy says that you are protecting your permanents and giving them indestructible until end of turn. And then Path to Exile is more targeted removal. And then even more good stuff in the deck. So we've got an Alphishini creature here that when you cast a spell from exile, you get to copy it and choose new targets for the copy. Ishin Two Heavens is 1. Triggers attack abilities twice. So that all those firebending abilities are going to trigger twice. Cosmic Interventions, more protection for your permanents. And then Comet Storm is a mana sink that does damage. Electro Dominance is a mana sink that lets you cast something for free, X or less. Ghostly Prison to protect us. Chaos Warp is targeted removal. Absent Falconer is turning all of these +1 counter creatures into flyers. Grand Crescendo is making you a bunch of tokens and then protecting your stuff for the turn. Generous Gift is more removal, and then Blasphemous Act is a board wipe. And then big mana in the deck, so we're running Zuko Firebending Master. He gets Firebending X, where X is your experience counters, but if you're casting all of these spells during combat, you're getting a ton of those. Avatar Roku Firebender, I would argue one of the best mono red creatures out of this set. Anytime a player attacks, you get 6 mana just for showing up. So good. And then he has a mana sink built in on him to give a creature +3 for the turn. Sozin's Comments, giving them all Firebending 5 for the turn. So good. The last Agni Kai is giving a target creature fighting another creature, and then excess damage turns into red mana, and your red mana doesn't burn between steps. Same with Electro Assaulting Battery, Leyline Tyrant, Ashleen Flame Dancer, and Horizon Stone. All 4 of these are protecting your unspent red mana. And then Ozai the Phoenix King, if you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes red instead. So just more protecting mana and building up to a lot of these mana sinks and these bigger spells. And then we have a little more mana in the deck, not like necessarily huge mana, but enough to get stuff going. So a Soul Rain is our rock, Firebending Students giving you Firebending X, where X is her power, and then Chromatic Lanterns turning your lands into any color, so you can do everything that we've described. And with that, our show has come to an end. Thank you so much for watching our video, and if you enjoyed that video, feel free to share it out with any friends who might find value in it as well. Thank you so much for stopping by. We hope to see you again soon. Have a good one.